Hi, Steve Casey. I am a reseller of stuff, but you know that. First of all, this is going to not be about reselling. It's going to be about some experiences I had in the mid 80s when I became a Porsche salesman. And it will contain some adult content and some rough profanities. So if that's not you, then please see you next time. Early 70s, the worst movie in the world came out. It was called Le Mans. Terrible acting, terrible, just, script, just whatever. Two things were cool. It involved a Porsche race driver at Le Mans, and it was Steve fucking McQueen. And Steve McQueen was actually a real life excellent driver who qualified to drive Porsches in the early 70s for the Porsche team. Anyway, coolest scene in the world in Le Mans. Opening scene, he is driving early one morning and he's going to Le Mans. So that was convenient. The coolness of Steve McQueen set into everybody in the whole country. Okay, that was something that didn't happen to me Porsche-wise until about a decade later. I got a divorce, was a customer of a Porsche store, thought it'd be real fun. Told these two guys who seemed to be having fun every day that one was the general manager of that particular store and the sales manager that I wanted to work there. So we had an interview. I had been clean and sober of drugs and alcohol for about 5 or 6 years at the time. And when they asked the question, about 4 questions into it, and like I said, they knew me. They said, "You ever had a DUI?" And I say, "Yep, 1979, but I've been clean and sober for 5 years." Well, guess what, boys and girls? Both these guys had addiction things going on, and both of them were trying in the program. The interview lasted 45 minutes about how I stayed clean and sober every day, and at the end, very little was spoken about salesmanship, about me, other than that. Boom, they said, "Let me show you our office, your office." So they led me to my office. I had a mentor, and there he is. My mentor that taught me everything about Porsche was a salesman. He was a club racer, which means upper level, but not quite a pro. We got to go back, and we got to pause. So, among other things, every Saturday morning early before people started coming in, we would jump into 2 cars very similar to this and drive through an industrial park that was being completed. Actually, it was for Home Depot. This was in Atlanta. And it had massive turns and everything, and the roads were complete. The building wasn't done. They didn't work on Saturdays. So we did road tests every Saturday morning in various Porsches, and I gotta tell you, that's the way to start a job. If you gotta work for somebody else, it's fun to do that. Then I was warned about our CEO. The CEO was a guy who you either loved him or hate him. The stories of this guy were, everybody smoked cigarettes back then in sales meetings. He would fly up from Florida and give his once a month meeting. One of the salesmen complained about cigarettes. The salesman smoked. We all smoked. And he was just being a dick, and he said, can you not smoke in front of me and all that stuff? He goes, "No problem." So he says, "Why don't you just hit that door that says exit on it and not come back?" And he was serious. The guy was a very good salesman. And he left that day because of cigarette smoke. So anyway, I had the privilege of driving this guy back to the airport. And like I said, you either loved him or hate him. So he made me stop before we went to the airport. We stopped at the Gucci store. He walked in. He bought 6 pairs of Gucci's. He says, "What size you wear?" And I said, I told him 12 and a half, 13. So he says, "Try on these." And I put them on. They were just beautiful $350 shoes. He says, "Congratulations. Now go sell some cars." So he gave me a pair of Gucci's. And the guy was like that. He was just wonderful. Anyway, the first customer that sticks in my head when I was thinking about what I did in the 80s was a guy that came in and bought a car very similar to this. Not this car. This is actually a European version of the mid-80s turbo. Nice guy. Came in real quiet, real even casual dressed, real starched shirt, khaki painted, penny loafers, real business-like, not a whole bunch of personality. And turns out that the guy loved everything about my presentation. Real quick, real easy, bum. He says, "Can you deliver it to my business?" And I said, "Absolutely, sir. Where would you like me to go?" And that was on a Saturday. On Monday, I pulled up to that building right there. And he was one of the top 3 guys. He was heir to the CEO throne for a major soft drink company. And he said, "Just park it up front." And I did. And the security guard said, "You can't park there." And I said, "Well, this car belongs to so-and-so." And he says, "Right this way, sir." And I went up there, and there was people waiting in this atrium area to talk to him, like 10 deep. And his executive assistant said, "Right this way." And everybody's going, "Who the hell is that guy?" Little do they know, it was a Porsche salesman. I walked in. He gave me a piece of paper saying how much he loved me and had the letterhead on it. And he says, "Put that in your brag book," because I saw it sitting on your desk. Brag book is letters and such. Back then, no internet. So anyway, it was the #1 guy from CocaCola, who in turn sold me a bunch of cars like the #3 guy at Coca-Cola, who is the best salesman in the world because he convinced Coca-Cola to change their formula. And he was a marketing director. And he bought a car similar to that within a week. Between those 2 guys, everybody that worked beneath them was all of a sudden allowed to buy Porsches because the boss and marketing director had Porsches. So everybody else bought not as expensive Porsches, but they sent everybody to me. It was an absolutely amazing time. And 24 cars must have sold in 2 years. Then this guy walked in, or a guy dressed just like Don Johnson. Sorry, that was lemonade. And honest God, he had this exact look. Turns out he's a very cool guy from Miami. Got a little Spanish accent. Driving around in a red Porsche, because that was red or black was pretty much all that we sold and everybody wanted. We do a deal in like 8 minutes. He says, "I'll give you my car and X amount of dollars for that car right there." I said, "Okay." So he pays me the difference in cash, pulls out his title. Excuse me. We do the paperwork. He's good to go. He jumps in. He's in a big hurry. He drives off. I take his trade in and I just park it kind of behind the fence in the rear of the building. But I still got the keys in my pocket when all of a sudden the phone on my desk rings. There were no cell phones, and it's the guy. And he says, "Dude, where's my car?" And I said, "Oh, are you okay?" And he goes, "Yeah." He says, "I left something in the car." said, no problem. Nobody's been in it except me. I got the keys in my pocket. Just come on back and, you can pick up whatever you want. So, naturally, I didn't touch the car, but I had to look. And that's what was sitting. Something very similar to that, except it was in a paper bag. So I went out in my office and got one of those file boxes, like banker boxes, I think they call them. Emptied it out. Guy pulled up. I gave him the keys to the car in the banker box. And I said, there's the car back there. That guy loved me so much, he bought a car a year for the next 6 years, I think it was. Let's do some more. Mediocre infielder for the Braves in the 80s, and I'm a big baseball fan, but I didn't let that get in the way of me selling anybody. I never, ever talked about baseball to these guys. Came in, bought a car from me. And a couple weeks later, another guy came in. Turns out, the second guy, who was an outfielder, hated the middle infielder. They hated each other, but I didn't know that. The outfielder turned out to be my best customer, baseball-wise. He was responsible for me for 12 personal cars, I think nine personal cars, 3 others for friends, and then he told everybody that they played that I'm the guy. Pretty soon I got a call from a Seattle Mariner in Seattle. Can you deliver out here? I said, yeah, sure. I mean, it turned out, last count, it was 64 cars to Major League Baseball players. I was the baseball guy. It was a lot of fun. And then, this is not the actual woman, but you get the style of this woman. She walked in, applied for a job. I've been there a couple of years, was directed to train her, which I did. She said, I will do anything to find a rich guy, and she meant it. 3 weeks later, found a rich guy. She quit. He put her up, took care of her, all that kind of stuff. 2 months later, I get a call from the rich guy who bought a car from her and said, have you seen so-and-so? I said, nope. He said, if you see her, will you call me? And I said, yes, sir. Didn't ask him why or whatever. Turned out she bolted on him, took various credit cards and cash, was last seen in the south of France. And the rich guy's wife wanted to know what the 40-something thousand worth of charges from Nice and Cannes and the south of France, was all about. So, all right, I rambled too much. That's a couple things from the 80s. And it was fun. And it was different back then. And we'll see you next time. And next time we'll talk about reselling.